Hello, in today's video we're going to be talking about matrices. What is a matrix? A matrix is a system comprised of numbers and numerical data arranged into rows and columns. Now what do I mean by that? Imagine you are a manager at Angel's Care, responsible for the department that produces diapers and wipes. You are given a production report for the months January and February. The setup that you see here is a very conducive way of depicting the information from a production report. The rows represent time periods in months, while the columns represent the products. In January, which represent the first row, we had 20 diapers and 50 wipes that were produced. In February, we had 30 diapers and 60 wipes that were produced. Now, knowing the setup, after defining this setup, we can extrapolate these numbers and write them inside square matrices in this form, and this is the numerical arrangement of data into rows and columns. A matrix is like a map. Now that simply means you know how on a map you usually have symbols that represent certain things. For example, dotted lines will represent a rail line. Such things make it possible for you to describe certain things without actually drawing real images of them. In matrices, we have sort of a same system which helps you to identify the position of any number within a matrix. Now, you may think that is unnecessary because we are dealing with a very not so complicated matrix, but matrices can comprise different numbers of rows and columns, sometimes maybe even up to 30, and it can be very difficult for you to identify them or to exactly talk about a specific position in the matrix. So now, how do we form that map? So we shall use the notation A sub I j, where I represents the row in which the number is and j represents the column in which the number is. So we shall refrain from using the word number now. We'll be calling it a matrix element. Okay, so this gives us the position, the exact position of a matrix's element. For example, let's talk about the position of 20. 20 is in the first row. Remember, we must always start with the row, and in the first column. Okay, so A sub 1 first row and 1 first column would exactly talk about this position, as I have indicated on this other side. Let's go to 30. So for 30 is in the second row, remembering that we must always start with the row and first column, right? So that's what this notation here talks about. So the position here is described by second row, first column, and so on and so forth. Now, a matrix has a specific order or code, which is rather called the order of a matrix. Now, what is an order of a matrix? That simply talks about the number of rows and columns that make up a matrix. For example, this matrix that we have here is a 2 by 2 matrix, representing the 2 rows and the 2 columns that make up the matrix. Now remember, it is very important to always start with the number of rows, a by sign, followed by the number of columns, because that is the rule when writing down the order of a matrix.